the goal is to overwhelm and prove the mice wrong that you do know where the bucket is and that you can fill it.
Excellent. The reading this morning is from the Gospel of John, chapter 4, verses 7 through 14. And in this chapter, Jesus is on his way from Judea to Galilee, and he has to go through Samaria. And the Jews apparently considered the Samaritans religious apostates. And so Jesus was weary, and he stopped by Jacob's well. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" Because Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life."
I bet you were expecting to see Leslie and I up here. But it is I. Okay. What I'd like to do is invite you to our kitchen table. That kitchen table, as of today, is 51 years where Leslie and I have spent time. So, because you're at our kitchen table, and because we're both doctors, and because we've been washed to our core with science, this is about science, knowing, and interfacing faith as it relates to water. So if you look out our kitchen window, you will see often on a clear night the moon rising up. So imagine being in the capsule of the Artemis coming around the dark side of the moon. And what you see in front of you is a crescent of a blue, green, white, brown planet. It is one of the planets in the 43 million known galaxies in our universe. When you look at that, you think, oh, the blue is water. What is else? Well, the brown is often where there's no ice or no water. The white is not just ice at the caps. It is the clouds, the micro droplets of water rising up on the currents of air or being pulled down by gravity. The green is because life as we know it for the fauna requires water, much like we require water to survive. So, put your gaze back to the kitchen table. Oh, we have a teaspoon here. Not a tablespoon, a teaspoon. And we lift 1 teaspoon of water and we pour it. What did you just see? You saw 153 6 trillion molecules of water falling in response to gravity. That water moving in response to gravity allows water to move through our cells. In space, if I poured that teaspoon of water in my hand, it would just sit there. it would not run. It would not flow like the living waters that we read about. It would not flow like the rivers that we see. It would just sit. When we look at that earth, water only makes up a thin veneer. 0.2% of the mass of this earth is water. 0.2%. We're looking for life in galaxies where the planets have over 50% water. We would have to grow fins and not rest if we lived on a planet with over 50% water. So let's go a little bit deeper. This goes to your mother's womb. The mother's placenta makes about a cup of amniotic fluid every day. The first sense that all of us in this room felt when we were just this large was the warmth of that 98 plus degree water enveloping us. The first sound that we sensed was the vibration of your mother's voice. Starts at 20 hertz, then to middle C, 128 hertz by the second trimester, to higher tones in the third trimester. You could feel the vibration of your mother's hum, the vibration of her heartbeat, as it coursed through the water to vibrate in your bones and on your skin. You have known the feeling of water since your existence. We once were told, kind of in a comedic way, there were twins floating in the womb, and they knew they could hear a voice. It was a muffled voice, and they didn't know what that was. Was that God? Was that mother? And then they spoke to each other in the womb before they delivered. Do you think there's life after birth? Leslie more than I, but together we have helped experience the first breath of over 6,500 children as they broke out of that water, as they took their first breath of air. The miracle of water, this sense of vibration, this molecule that contracts and expands, it can contract so much that when you drive 1,000 meters under the ocean, a blue whale can communicate with its calf 5,000 miles away by the contraction of water and the vibration moving through that. Everywhere you look, we think of vibrations going through water. So let's bring us back to the clouds. Those clouds have micro droplets that are 10 to 20 microns wide. You go, what's a micron? Well, it would take 10 to 20 of them side by side to equal the width of a human hair. So what happens when the light of the sun, the light that we read about in Genesis, the water hits the water we read about in Genesis, what happens when light hits a single micromolecule, microdroplet of water? It enters, it's refracted, it reflects, and it exits. And depending on the angle that that light hits that water droplet, at 40 degrees, your eye perceives red. At 42 degrees, your eye perceives violet. So it's as the light hits those micro droplets that reflect and refract through that droplet and come to your eye that you can see the gloriousness of a rainbow. Our whole life, existence, depends on our relationship with water. And at this point, one of my children would say, "Papa, can you please dish up some food?" So on reflection, I will say this. In our 102 years of bringing perception and perspective together. We have stood in monsoon rains in the Thai jungle. We've slid across the frozen tundra where we were thankful the rivers were frozen solid. We watched steams rise from desert after a desert cloudburst and the joys of hearing our children's first breath and cry. We have washed each other's feet and have been awestruck by the healing waters that have flowed in our presence to all of our patients, to all the people in church. It's been a miracle in the last 102 years, and it's been a walk of challenged faith out of the waters of baptism 6 months after we were married. This mission moment has fused a bit of science, a bit of medicine, and quite a bit of faith. Water. This miraculous blessing from God, the Creator, that allows life as we know it, that actually impacts each one of our DNA strands so it can keep its structure and doesn't collapse, and allows life to be. Thank you.
Should you feel like you know this song and want to sing along and or dance or clap your hands or wiggle or just have fun in any way, please feel free. One, two, three.
Join hands, start a love train
I don't know about you, but I really enjoy what John is trying to do in this gospel. The problem is, we would need to sit down and read the whole thing together to catch all the nuance. So, to catch you up quickly as to what I am particularly delighting in this morning, did you hear when Cynthia said Jesus had to go to Samaria? As if there's only one road. Jesus didn't have to go to Samaria. There were faster ways to get where he was going. But he went anyway. Why? Why does the book say he had to go? He shows up at noon. Why is he there at noon? What's up with that? Why does he sit down at a well with no water? Or no bucket to get the water, which is essentially the same thing. It's no good if you have to fall in there to get it because you're not going to get out. Doesn't make a lot of sense. What's he doing here? Why'd the disciples go to get food if they were on a long journey? Don't they know about backpacks? Have they not walked before? It just leads a host of curious questions if one is able to slow down and read the words. Instead of rushing to what you all know is coming, Jesus' encounter with his first girlfriend. Oh, did you not know that's what this is? This is the meet cute. This is the most famous meet cute ever. And of course, Jesus fails. It's not his time. It'll work out. John tells us. But this is a story that is just filled with curiosity and fun if we slow down to notice. And if we pull the questions to ask, wait, why is that happening? So much of it depends on knowing what has just happened. And so much depends on knowing what's gonna happen. So very quickly, before this is the story of Nicodemus. Do you know what time Nicodemus shows up to talk to Jesus? In the middle of the night. Nicodemus sneaks to Jesus at night, a disciple that doesn't want to be known. And as he talks, he asks the question, how am I to be born again? Do I have to get back up in my mother's womb? And on Mother's Day, my answer is no. It's closed. Not having that. Needless to say, Nicodemus doesn't get far in this conversation, and he leaves again in the night. And it's the next chapter where Jesus has to go to Samaria, a place that is, as Cynthia said, full of tension between these two communities. And if it had been possible to go another way, which it was, Jesus would most likely have gone that way. So there's a necessity that John wants us to experience in this part of the story. John needs this encounter. And so Jesus comes to Samaria. It's noticeable that a person who Jesus wouldn't normally talk to, wouldn't normally associate, or so we're told, shows up at the brightest point of day. Noon is the exact opposite of night, and that isn't accidental. The gospel is trying really hard to put these things in contrast, that one of Jesus' own community is struggling to see where the story is going, but yet someone who doesn't have this relationship shows up in the brightness of day and asks for living water. You might have heard that this woman is of ill repute or immoral. If the story were to continue, she has 5 husbands. But I assure you that that is not a problem. There's a lot of reasons why a woman would have 5 husbands. A lot of people don't make it very long in first century. There is an untold amount of war and consequence, and to have 5 husbands is not a problem. It doesn't make her a harlot. It doesn't make her some sort of woman of the night. If any of the sermons you've heard before have mentioned that, I would ask you to disabuse that knowledge, because it's not in the text. But it's often what we want to make of someone who shows up. And so sometimes we hear in this story particularly that she comes by herself at noon because no one else will talk to her. Maybe. I think there's a lot of good questions as to why she would show up at noon. But we don't have any answers. So to presuppose that we know why she's there, other than the fact that she is, might lead us to some curious biblical imagination. But as long as we don't make any big suppositions, it's okay. Because the truth is, we don't know if she just ran out of water while she was making bread. We don't know if she couldn't get there in the morning when it was cool. We don't know if maybe her friends didn't want to go or they'd already gone, or because she doesn't have any kids. Maybe there was nobody else to send and she woke up late and the alarm clock on the cell phone didn't go off and she didn't get there. Instead of piling on our presumptions about who she is, let's go slow and hear what she has to say. Because she shows up at the well. And it's Jesus who asks the first question, not her. Can I have something to drink? Being a woman who is not unwise, looks at this very strange man and notices there is no bucket. He needs her help. And she asks, why are you asking me this? Why don't you have a bucket? It should raise a question in your mind. Why no bucket? What is the author trying to tell you? What is trying to be said when the one who comes to the well has no bucket? I grew up, as I've told you many times, in Wairika, California. And as a class field trip in 3rd grade, we got to ride the school bus to Mount Shasta. I know. They let us occasionally cavort with the more liberal types. And we went to see the headwaters of the Sacramento, which is in a park in Mount Shasta. It is the only time that I have seen them. Has anyone seen the headwaters? What was the one word that you would use to describe it? Really? This is what I said. We got off the bus. Do you know how long it takes the bus with a whole bunch of 3rd graders? Way longer than you'd want. We got out of the park, and we got there, and I go, where? And the teacher goes, this is the headwaters of the Sacramento River. Is there more? Do we have more to do? And the answer was no. That was it. It bubbles. It sort of comes out of a rock. But I, for some reason, was expecting something more like a rushing waterfall or something voluminous or, I don't know, even mildly inspiring. When I got back on the bus and my parents asked when I got home how it was, and I said, well, small, boring. And my dad said, even small, boring things reroute our state. And I said, well, it'd have to get a lot bigger. And he said, no, Janna, get out the map. And he got out the map and he traced where the river went. talked about all the different engineering that had gone on, all the terrascaping, all the landforming that had happened because of this river, all of the ways that it flows, and all the people who receive life out of this boring, unimpressive, small thing in Mount Shasta. And I said, well, then why isn't it cooler if it does all this stuff? And he said, it just is what it is. When Jesus shows up at this well, he has no bucket. He's a bubbling, unimpressive, dirty man asking for a drink of water. And the woman who sits beside him very curiously wants to know why he's not cooler. Why didn't he bring his own bucket? Why is it this way? But getting out a map, he says, this water, if you ask for it, will provide a living water. And she does the thing that Nicodemus doesn't do. She asks for that living water. If you would give it to me. You see, a bubbling spring isn't always very impressive. It requires us to participate. It requires us to ask, where are you going? Why are you so small? Where will these waters move? Who will they feed? What will you grow? How can I not impede your movement? When things are big and moving, it's easy to see them. But when they are small and bubbling, it's important to ask questions, to be curious and wonder, why is this here? Because what happens at that well in the next many, many verses, Jesus stays for 2 days to talk, to have conversation in a community that he's not supposed to be at, to find community, to move this woman who, for whatever reason, is alone into the place of prophetess in her community. She comes back and is the first to be able to proclaim into this community that Jesus loves them, that Jesus is God. And the only place in John where Jesus makes this statement is here, at an unimpressive moment that feels small and confusing and easily washed over. Community is formed. It took time and it took question. In this season, the question comes to us, how do we bubble up? Maybe we are feeling parched and unimpressive, tired of resisting what feels like dams put up in every part of the living water we are asked to be, over and over again, feeling like we are trying to bubble and encountering resistance, and then even more so, the work that we do is rerouted and changed. And we are thirsty for something that is a sense of holy justice, of merciful love, a sense of abundant life that this water is supposed to provide. And maybe we keep looking for the big, impressive thing that's going to fix it. The Sacramento at the end. But maybe the call is to go back to the unimpressive things that we are. Small, bubbling fountains of love. Small well springs of hope. Of places that have been touched by the kindness of others that have been filled with a sense of living water from those we have encountered, we know that even we need constant refreshment and filling, but then at times we bubble over with a sense of joy and hope and care. How often do we come to the deep water and say, I don't have a bucket. I can't do this. I'm so thirsty and the deep water is so far away. How often is that the call of our community? That the things that people need for abundant life are so far away and there is no bucket. How do we promise over and over to be Jesus' hands and feet and not see that we ourselves are the small bubbling streams? What happens when there's no bucket? Be the wellspring, just as you are. For just as you are, beloveds, you are called to well up with care and love for one another. Maybe as we are, we can't override all the dams in our way. But we can bring abundance, we can bring hope, we can bring life, even when there is no bucket. Amen.